Bop, 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 beep. Beep, 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 bop.
Why am I not
Beep, bop, beep,
showing
bop,
my
beep, beep, beep,
video?
bop, bop.
Super cool.
Beep, bop.
Can
Beep, bop. I can't see Justin.
you hear me? There we go. I have a new toy.
New toy alert.
I can do this.
I can actually hear it for once too.
Is it super loud?
No, it's perfect.
It's like deafening on my end, so that's good.
What's your new toy?
It's called Farrago. It's made by the same company that makes Audio Hijack.
Right.
How's it going? How was your weekend event? Or Friday event?
That feels like a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was good. It was nice. It was pretty chill. We didn't have a huge number of people. Like Laura counted 25 punters through, which was nice because I just actually had some time to play.
Nice.
And yeah, kept fiddling with the stall concept and kind of just hung out in a very clean workshop and had some nice conversations with some locals, and yeah, it was good. Nice thing to do.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something will turn into it. Something will happen out of that, I'm sure.
Yeah, like there
Someday.
were a couple of people who were sort of, we had conversations about furniture they wanted to commission, but most people were just coming in for a sticky beak, They follow us on social media and just wanted to come and check out our workshop.
What was
which
that?
is great.
What did you say? Sticky beak?
A sticky beak.
That's a new one.
Come for a sticky beak.
What is that?
Just have a look around.
Okay. I was thinking it might be food for a second. Like a... Oh, I get it now.
Excellent.
Stick your beak. Okay.
I don't know if I even get it. An inquisitive person is the definition.
That's good. The idioms from different locations are amazing.
It's excellent when we just stumble across them.
I was thinking I mishear you, and then I'm like, wait, no.
Yeah.
That's not in my language dictionary.
But it was good.
Cool.
It's good. I'm looking forward to another one this weekend.
Oh, it's
Yep.
like repeat.
Yeah, with the 3 weekends in a row
Oh,
for the
boy.
festival. Yeah. How are you going?
Very good, because we finally are making these reliably.
Ta-da!
Like
Sick.
16 tries later, and some better fixturing tools, like actually using like a Talon rail, like super aggressive little strip that holds raw stock. It's actually keeping it down.
Right.
It's keeping the stock. So what happened after, I think we talked about it. I was like, yeah, it's going pretty well. And I'm watching it, and I go back out there, and Ricky's like, they're warping. And I'm like a 4-inch by 13-inch piece of stock that's 5 of these was warping across the 4-inch side
Across the 4-inch,
on the old setup. So
have you been facing it?
well, so that was one task, was to face and flip, but there was like 6 mil almost left on the bottom of a hat, and it was still warping, like with these on top of that.
Wow.
So long story, long process. I added the extra bit of machining on the router without having to take it off, because we have it pretty like dialed into a certain location.
Yeah, cool.
But they've been running. We're shooting for a couple hundred, so it's working.
Cool. Great.
Which is happy making for everybody. We actually had somebody order just these off the website, which was kind of like out of nowhere, just waving these around. They're tool forks, ATC tool, that we've been struggling to dial a process in for months, it feels like. And we finally have this nice beefy like aluminum fixture I made on the mill that has vacuum flow through for op 2, and then the first op is all mechanical fixturing, but they're coming out about as good as we could hope for. Like there's really nothing we could do to make them better, I think, at this point, which is great. And when we got the order for somebody who just ordered, I had them on as a product so you could add them as an extra to the pedestals.
Yep.
Like if you wanted some extras, nobody's done that. But out of nowhere, somebody ordered, I think 6. And I kind of had a momentary like, oh my God, what? Like what? We're having so much problem. At that point, we hadn't nailed it yet. And I was like, oh man, we're either going to have to like refund that or just like tell them it's going to be a little bit still. And then I was like, wait, that's good money. Like we could, that day I told Ricky, like we could potentially sell these as a separate item someday. We got to make sure this process works, not just to get through these pedestal orders. And that night I'm like cooking dinner and I'm like, oh, somebody ordered them. Great. That's serendipity.
Awesome. Yeah, I came across some in our tool cabinet the other day. I was like, oh, what's that? Oh, it's a tool fork. Look at that. Well, would you look at that? I picked it up and had a look at it. It's like, I don't know what Justin's complaining about.
These are easy.
At all. No. I was like looking at the features in it. And this one is definitely injection molded. I don't know what the material is. And it's like a 2-part injection mold. It's got like inbuilt aluminium lugs in it where you bolt it onto a machine. Like kind of index lugs. It's quite an ugly part. Like the surface finish is terrible and like injection molding quality is terrible, but I was interested to see that.
Yeah, I didn't realize
it feels like nylon, something like maybe HDPE. I'm not sure. Anyway.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, cool, man. I'm glad you're making progress.
I'm sure there's other ways to do it. When you got a hammer, you make them with your hammer, I guess.
Yeah. So that's dialed in for now. Where are you at with the aluminium components?
I'm moving through them pretty good. We're about ready to ship the last couple testers.
Cool.
Maybe in the next week or so. Hopefully. I was hoping the end of this week. We're getting close. I'm working on, there's like one more part that I need to like fix some details. And then we're kind of at the phase of just running parts now, which is cool. I thought we had run out of riser stock, which is that like thing with the hole in the middle of it. And I was like, I thought I ordered a lot of this, but we'd run some, they'd been tested and we kept having like different aspects. And Ricky had put away counted a bunch of it, and I went to go like start to order more. And then I just happened to ask Ricky, I was like, you don't know of any more aluminum stock for the risers, right? And he was like, just these couple places. And he showed me in like our little kitchen cabinet area, there's some parts near that underneath it. And he opens up the cabinet and it's like 60 pieces of aluminum shoved into this kitchen cabinet. And I was like, this is like weird, not critical, but it's like, this is weird machine shop hoarding. Like that we just have like a lot of aluminum in this little cabinet. And I was like, oh, good. That was almost a costly reorder.
Who stashed them in there? You?
He did. No, I'm glad it wasn't me that would have forgotten it and then reordered it.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. So yeah, it's gone all right. Otherwise, we had both machines humming pretty good yesterday, and we've been printing up a storm we have a new potential version of the dust boot coming that we've been printing parts for. So
great. How's the bamboo going?
Really great. It has quirks every once in a while, mostly related to how rolls fit in the AMS. It's pretty fussy about size, width, problems of the rolls. And even with the same manufacturer, sometimes of a filament, you'll get something that doesn't fit quite right in there. So that's its biggest problem we've had.
Does it want you to buy proprietary stuff, or it's just a bit limited?
It doesn't actually fuss at you too much. What you don't get is like any intelligence to what the roll is. Those like Bamboo's version rolls have RFID tags on them. And so it automatically senses which one's which. And it's really cool in that sense. I think it even shows how much is left on that roll. So like there's definitely some perks, and I can't imagine they're going to roll some of that out to, you just kind of get like generic PETG and then you pick a color, which I mean, honestly, that's been amazing too. So we've had a couple problems, but it's been very minor, like, and all around PETG, which has its own quirks too. So
Yeah. And that's what the boot is, isn't it?
yeah.
Petchy.
Yeah.
Cool.
Which that has had so little problems. We started to get a little bit of, I guess you'd say, just like build up on the nozzle a little bit, and then it deposits into the part if you're not.
Yeah.
I don't even know if careful is the right word, but I tweaked a couple settings and got rid of that too. So it's been, I printed like 4 the other day with like no issue. And it used to be like pretty real. Like it was a crapshoot. We never really knew.
Fantastic.
While we're on this topic, we have a breaking news. There's now there's Prusa just announced their 4 MKS 4.
Okay.
I didn't get a lot of chance to look at it, but I saw them in a post about it. Curious to see what MK4. Oh.
It'll be interesting because I feel like they're
on.
playing catch up.
Oh yeah, definitely. The Bomb Johns talked about that, about how I think Saunders got a bamboo, and
Yeah.
I saw him post after that like a story of like, this thing is amazing, and I was like, I've been waiting for one of them to get one because like they kept talking about him. I was like, just wait till they try this out. They're gonna be shocked. But Saunders was talking about how like, you know, they had been waiting on the new Core whatever XL version that Prusa was going to bring out, and it's been really delayed. And like in the time that they brought out they started the sales for the Core XL, and then Bamboo announced their X1, it like basically made the Core XL kind of obsolete in a certain sense. Like it is so far behind in terms of like technological, like, let's just say intelligence of, you know, layer analysis. And I mean, the other day, the Bamboo, it dropped off like a piece, it kind of like deposits stuff down what we call the poop chute in the back, which most people call it that. And it hung on instead and brought it to the center and dropped it into the center of the table. And it was just heating up the bed to go print the next thing. And we don't pay attention to it. We just push print and walk away usually. And it had a warning, and it said like, there's something in the middle of the bed. Like there's a bulge or something. And,
Siren body identified.
And it just had like this like couple gram tornado of filament just sitting in the middle of the bed. I picked it up, pushed resume, fine. Just fucking wild, man.
So good. Speaking of desktop machines, I really enjoyed the interview with Bree Pettis.
I haven't listened to that yet.
Bantam Tools on the Within Tolerance podcast. I listened to it twice, in fact. I enjoyed it that much. Again, yesterday, driving out to the photo shoot in Ballarat, which is an hour and a half away. Listened to it again. It's great. Great one. Recommend. We'll link.
Yeah. I guess
I always enjoyed Bree's podcast when it was out. What was it called?
I didn't know he had one.
Yeah. He had one with Winston Moy.
Oh.
And another guy for a while. They only did 2 seasons of it.
Oh, really?
I'm blanking on the name, but it's really good. It's really great little series of interviews with other people.
I didn't realize that. I thought the one that I know of with Winston is the DXM, maybe? DXF?
Yeah, I know that. Yep.
Podcast. Huh. I didn't know about that.
I'll dig up the name. Progress, config progress, minimal. I just haven't had a great deal of time for it, but I did do one pretty solid day on it this week.
Is that a product? What is the config progress? Is that the thing, the Vectorworks thing? Vector. What?
I thought you'd written this note. I'd forgotten that I wrote this down. That's why I just launched into it.
No, I think you did. It says, "Give me some meat."
Give me some meat.
I see.
I can't
That makes more
remember
sense
what
now.
that means.
What did I write?
No, okay. It's all coming back to me. Yes, I did get one solid day on the Kit Parts configurator this week. Ta-da! Context. And most of that time was spent just reading the documentation. I actually read the instructions. I was a good boy and sat down and read all the instructions before I did anything. I got quite bored towards the end and started getting distracted. But it turns out the workflow, looks like the workflow of getting models onto the platform is going to rely on Blender. Because it needs this GLTF.2.0 file format, which Rhino can kind of do, but I was just getting errors out of Rhino.
Yeah.
So I downloaded Blender again and remembered like how overwhelming it is as an interface when you don't know how to use it.
So overwhelming.
So I was like, Josh, help! Can you model some simple Kit Parts components for me? But in the meantime, I just, dragged a few cylinders and cubes around and exported them in this format and got them up on the platform. I was like, right, I've got files in there. I can drag things around a little bit. Now I need to work out like the structure of, because they've got different like build structures within the platform. There's like a sort of linear, if you're doing the classic couch sofa, which every configurator seems to be based on, it's like a linear build structure for doing couches. And then there's a grid
Couch
structure
plugins.
and a couch plugin and a sort of free form drag and drop. So I need to work out which of those is going to be most appropriate and keep playing. But it was good to just get my head into a meaty project, to be honest. Be like, oh yeah, I've got weeks of work ahead of me on this. And here I am sitting down, starting on something and learning something new. And that was a really satisfying, enjoyable thing to get started on.
I've opened up Blender a handful of times in the last couple of years. Like a week or two ago, actually, was the last time. And I had the same reaction. It's just like, this is so overwhelming. Like, and then I'll get into some little tiny tool set. Like I was playing with trying to smooth a mesh and like change. It's almost like the thing I can correlate it to. It's like in Photoshop when you do the dodge and burn tool, where you like make a highlight or a low light different, but it like does that to meshes, which is just wild. And like you can raise or push or smooth or all these different things that I was terrible at, but I didn't really get accomplished what I went to do in it. And I just, it looks cool. Looks really powerful.
Yeah, it seems like an amazing package. I'd love to have, 6 months off to become semi-decent at it.
A Blender artist.
And a donut. I wanted to make that donut.
It's cool. Well, at least you're making progress. I mean, if I had... Can Josh just do this for you? If he's good with Blender already?
Could, but then I'd be crying in my cubby even more.
Oh,
because I didn't have anything fun to do.
I see. Yeah.
Leave me my donuts, please.
I'll leave it. Leave it to you.
Yes, Josh could probably do it, but I like architecting this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Fun bit.
How was your photo shoot?
Really
Looks good.
It's great. Thanks. It was great. Yeah, Jay found this amazing location in a neighboring regional city of Ballarat. And it was just this, it was like a wedding venue basically, but it was just this huge old industrial room filled with plants. And we had it to ourselves for the whole day. And Jay brought in lots of cool props and handled all the styling of stuff. And we shot, 1,200 photos or something. And yeah, it'll just be a really good resource for the coming sort of months.
Yeah.
In terms of product releases and website updates and email newsletters and just, social media, obviously. Just shot lots of content. Probably didn't shoot as much video as I would have liked because the light wasn't amazing. Like I was relying pretty heavily on my studio flashes to illuminate because it was a dull, rainy day, so there wasn't much sunlight. But, every time the sun sort of snuck out behind a cloud, I was like, quick, change the settings. get those shots with the sun because it was streaming through beautifully into the space. But no, the shoot was really good. It's a good day, a long day, pretty tiring. Doing that, I was pretty wrecked.
Brings so much stuff. All the photo things, the props, at least should help, I suppose. I feel like I've done those things often where it's just like me and way more than a carload should have, and then lugging it all and doing the photos and
and you got to build
I'm
it
really
all
hot
and tear it all down
typically
again.
in those situations too. It's like always too warm and I'm like sweating a lot for some reason.
But yeah, we'll try and do more of that as we progress this year. Like we'd love to do a more domestic one, like hire an Airbnb for a day, find a really nice house that sort of would, accommodate our furniture nicely. And those houses tend to have nice props and objects in them already. So it'd be, we could just roll in there, set up our furniture and shoot it.
Yeah.
Get some really nice sort of domestic settings in a day comfortably, I reckon. So that might be the next one.
Yeah.
As we redistribute our marketing budget, there's some fun opportunities on the horizon.
Definitely. You might find some success. It does seem like there's a lot of them in Melbourne anyway. The thing we found when we were going to photograph the Knack wall was this website called Peerspace. And it's like somewhere between Airbnb and studio rental. So it's kind of set up for that. And you can find things that you're looking for. Like I see one option is a house or a daylight studio.
Cool. Interesting. Could you pop that link in, please?
Mm-hmm. Oh, God.
Thank you. Oh, gosh.
There you go. There's a real sexy link for you.
Let's just leave that in the show notes just like that. They GPS coordinates?
It looks like it is.
I think they are.
It's straight to Jem's house.
What?
No.
It's what every URL needs. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, we got... I forget. Somebody that worked here had found a couple different of those sites. And I remember that one off the top of my head being pretty useful. But yeah, it was good. I mean, I wouldn't say negotiate, but like we were kind of like going back and forth about like what we needed to do to hang up the Knack wall was a little bit odd, and that we basically had to damage somebody's wall. So there was always a back and forth about like, we'll pay you to fix that, but like, how does that work? Do we agree ahead of time? Like, do you fix it, then bill us? Like,
Yeah. No.
Do you hear that crazy noise?
Yeah, that's cool. Nice.
It's facing over the Op2 forks. So I think it goes between solid, open, solid, open.
Yeah. It's cool noise. With what tool?
That's a shear hog. It's like a two-fluid beefy boy that...
Insert cutter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the first major tool that I ever purchased back when I was in the garage. It felt so expensive to me. This was like $250.
Because Saunders told you to?
Probably. No, I don't know. I remember him talking about them, but I think I needed to cut like 9 of these giant panels, and it felt like the smart thing to do to be able to cut more faster, I guess, like roughing wise.
More
So
faster.
I didn't know anything about other than like set it and go, and hopefully it doesn't bury itself. And yeah.
What's new in Software Corner?
Go. Software Corner. Oh, Grasshopper.
Oh.
I can't tell how incredibly loud that is. Can you hear me over that? Table saw?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. It sounds loud from here. I did like a very minimal version of this thing we had chatted about for quite a while, which was, there should be a pretty easy way to like create a quoting Grasshopper Rhino file where you could just like, in my case, I had it select an object, which was a 3D object, and then select surfaces that are 3D in a separate segment of it, and then I can set like step over, feed rate, a factor of how that's affected, and then it can give me removal volume. It gives me these are like the most basic like division and multiplication after you find those things. And so it gave me very simple answers. So like I did a contour cut of the surface at that step over. And so it's like very basic in terms of like, it's not giving me really much else than like lengths of cutting, lines of cutting. And
which is great.
That's pretty useful, actually, like considering this part is the size of our bed, CNC router bed. So it gives me some concept of like how much time would this take? Because in this case, I'd probably do a little bit of, adaptive removal. So I can theoretically throw some removal rate at the beginning part, the volume calculation, and then I can know how long the surfacing might take potentially. But it's a lot easier than setting up a setup in Fusion.
Yeah, for sure. I was trying to quote some little 3D machined aluminium parts the other day, actually. And I put threw the part in Rhino first and kind of worked out what the stock size was and like overlaid some just geometry and like what I thought the step over was going to be. I was like, no, this doesn't feel right. So then I jumped into Fusion and applied, a 3D adaptive and a parallel, finishing, just some basic finishing toolpaths.
Yeah.
And then jumped into simulation, and the statistics tab in the simulation in Fusion gives you a total length.
Yep.
I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that kind of matches what I was starting to roughly calculate in Rhino. And it wasn't quite right, and I didn't want to spend the time like finessing the toolpath to be more accurate.
That's free work.
So I kind of just denied and like ended up kind of sort of just coming out with an average based on the two numbers, basically, of like what I thought roughly the runtime was going to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool to check that out. I see you've sent me a little thing.
I can send you the grasshopper.
That's cool.
I tried to get a little more specific with labeling it for myself for the future so that I can actually try to use it again. Because I feel like when I open up a grasshopper file the next time, I'm like, what is this disaster?
What? What is this jumble of nonsense?
Yeah, so much goes on in that room.
I had a thought on Software Corner. A photographer, someone I know on Instagram, sort of through the architectural photography scene here in Melbourne, a really, really talented photographer, very well respected in his field. He's having a great time at the moment just creating images in Midjourney. And that's all he's posting. And they're incredible images, like phenomenal and creepy and weird. And they've got all the weird, like uncanny valley stuff going on with like groups of humans and disembodied forms and stuff. But just seeing some of the stuff that's coming out of Midjourney, I think it's version 5 that's just come out in beta or something, particularly some of the human sort of portrait photography. Let's call it photography for want of a better word. I'm glad I'm not a professional renderer right now or, as someone who takes photos as part of their profession. I wonder what the future of photography is going to look like too. Like, because these tools are becoming pretty, like they're developing so fast. Yeah. And like a friend sent me an image yesterday where he'd prompted Midjourney to create this desk scene, but he'd also given it like an internet URL to reference the design of the desk that he wanted in the scene. So I feel like we're not far off, like me as someone who has to produce images for my business, being able to go, hey, I want this scene. Can you use this kit of parts, shelf configuration from this website or this 3D model? Here's the model. Give me the scene. Bloop. Seconds later.
Well, while you were saying that, I just realized that we are if we haven't been sent one already, we are. It's imminent that one of us gets an RFQ that's an AI generated concept.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to happen any minute, like it
now.
It's, I get those every once in a while. It's like, I think back to even, the early days of learning design too. There was this long period for me because I'm not very like artistic to start with. Like, it took me a long time to learn a set of skills to get what was in my head out.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause I can't draw very well. I can't paint. I can't sculpt. Like, it ended up being largely like computer based things that I was good at, over time. And now we've taken that level of like everything I did in school is now like a few text lines to Midjourney or ChatGPT or Dolly, right? Can now generate that. So a designer, Aaron and I were having this discussion the other day, like, who owns, not that this is important, but it's like, who owns the original content there that, like, are you a designer now if you type to ChatGPT or, no, that's the wrong one I keep saying. If you type to Dolly, right? Like, are you a designer if that image comes out something that you then have made? Like, you have one of us quote and then produce at some point?
Yeah. Yeah, look, in my opinion, I think we're at a point where you are still the designer. Like, you're using a tool to generate. It's just a different way of generating imagery. This guy who I follow, I very much would credit these images as his work because I imagine the prompts are hugely involved to get the results he's getting.
Yeah.
And, it's his creative brain that's kind of spitting up this wild stuff as well. Like, I think we're still at a point where, I would credit. Obviously, it's an incredibly powerful tool, but like I would still say, yes, he's a photographer and he's a designer and whatever. Mm-hmm. But I imagine that dynamic's going to change too, as these different services start to talk to each other more natively. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I've played on a few side projects that just for my own fun of learning other tools, and there's tools. I mean, it's almost like silly to talk about. It's like this one video I watched last night was my favorite top 10 of this deep dive into AI tools that this guy had gone down, and I was like, all right, let's I'll watch this just to see like what am I missing at this point. And almost throughout the entire video, he would talk about these tools, which were pretty interesting and like didn't blow my mind completely because of what we've already seen with AI stuff. But it was really interesting in the sense he kept saying, in 2 weeks, this is all going to be probably, this video won't be worth crap, You're going to have to look up a new video because there's already so many new tools out there. And one of his referrals of things that you should look at was just like a tool that tracks other tools that are out there, like some AI tool tracker. But one of the things I played with was like brand generators and branding generators, which that one also would scare me a lot. I know that the big brands are probably not going to go jump off to some AI tool instead of paying somebody to do it. But still, it's like, it's pretty good. And like one of his examples in this video was you type in a prompt, it generates a brand, a website, brand text, like product fake imagery, such that you can go from a text generated object or text generated prompt to, his example was something that you can start to take signups for on an email so that you can test the market of your idea.
Bonkers. Bonkers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, did we get another 1-star review?
I found one.
What happened?
I happen every once in a while around to our Apple Podcasts listing, kind of just check things, and somebody has given us a 1-star rating there.
Oh,
and that's fairly new-ish. Like, I'd say definitely in the last couple of weeks. So I don't know. I'm assuming it's our friend that didn't like my forklift video. Unless we've angered one of you out there.
I'm sorry if we've angered you with our poor audio quality.
Podcasting from cars and
I know.
everywhere
No.
else. I think we both been in the car. Hey, I don't know.
Well, that's fun. Can
Mostly
we do
just
anything about that?
nah, probably not. I don't know.
Nah.
It's not like the one side of it's like maybe someday this turns into something that's a lot more popular suddenly. Like we say something that's controversial, I guess.
Groundbreaking. Yeah.
But
One day one of these samples will go viral, I'm sure. Yes, play us out.
the benefit of the podcast thing, it's like, I guess if somebody's browsing for things to look at and they see a bunch of bad reviews,
Yes.
bad ratings, but who does that? Who goes and browses the podcast? Like, do you ever just go, I'll look for some more podcasts I want to listen to on like a podcast directory? Because I don't think I've ever done that before.
I do that.
Okay, maybe
When
it's
I've
just
got
me.
desperate. I've completely run out of all my favorites. Less so these days because I have less time for podcasts. But
Right.
when I used to be working 6 days a week and was still on a sander at midnight on Saturday night, and I'd run out of Reply All, I'd be like, I'm desperate, quick.
I forgot
What
about
am I gonna
Reply
listen
All.
to?
Huh. Yeah, back when it was good.
Back when it was good. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I mean, if you all would like to help in any minor way, you can go rate the podcast, preferably
That's right.
well.
You can,
It's always
can
in the
lift our
podcast
average
description.
up from 4.3 back closer to where it was at 5. Please and thank you.
Unless you hate the podcast, in which case, stop listening. Do not rate.
Go and listen to Reply All. Goodbye.
Go.
Well. Anything else
Well.
before we play ourselves out with a cacophony of samples?
Yeah, some mustard and like is a good fan.
The music we make is just beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
Do you have this? Do you recognize that?
That's big. That's creepy. No.
Sounds like Scooby-Doo to me. It's like this stupid kids show. Good old classic.
Put that coffee down.
Too many.
Bringing
Too
back
many.
the classics. Good.
Cool, man. Yeah, I think that's it.
See you next week.
See ya.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Yes.
I have this ready to go.
It's time for Things We Love.
Oh, God. What is that squeal sample?
It's like some anime thing I found on a soundboard. It just says,
Yeah, okay.
wow.